Hello everyone, welcome to the Rift. Today we're going to be looking at all the best orange cards in Origins. I think orange is in an excellent spot in this format. It's probably the best color in the game right now. It's just got so many crazy units and so many crazy spells. Yeah, so many of the cards on this list today. I would not be surprised if they got either banned or hit in some other way, either soon-ish or sometime in the future, because a lot of them are extremely strong. So for this list, I'm going to be splitting it into what I think are the top 5 units and what I think are the top 5 non-units or spells and gear and all that stuff, just so that I can talk about some more cards. And I'm not just making a list of a bunch of units and some spells, or just a bunch of spells and a unit or two. There are a lot of amazing units in Orange and a lot of amazing spells, so it's really hard to pick between the two when so many of Orange's cards are so amazing. So we'll be talking about a bunch of cards today. I've got 17 in total, so let's just jump right into it. But first, if you're enjoying the content, then make sure that you like the video and feel free to smash that subscribe button. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, I have a link to my Patreon in the video description. Also, I have channel memberships now. They're just $1 and you get these nice badges next to your name whenever you comment or chat in live streams. Thank you to everybody who supports the channel, even just by watching videos. I really appreciate it. Alright, back to the video. Alright, some honorable mentions for units before I get into my top 5. First off, we've got Udyr, Wild Man. This is a 6 might unit for 6 into power, and it's got a pretty good effect. It's a lot of different effects kind of wrapped up into one, and it's a very versatile card overall. Deal 2 to something can sometimes be relevant, but that one's pretty niche. Stun something is pretty nice. Readying himself is really good, and giving himself ganking is also pretty good. Yeah, if you can give this guy a bunch of buffs, he can pop off pretty hard, but that's difficult to do in this format currently. The only deck that can really facilitate him properly is Lee Sin, and overall that deck is just not that good right now. I think this card has a ton of potential for the future, especially with his ready effect. If you can give this guy just a bunch of buffs, he can really go to town. Yeah, this card might not be seeing much play right now, but he definitely has a lot of potential. Next up is Lee Sin, also a 6 might guy for 6. He's got Accelerate, which is a really good keyword, and other buff friendly units at his field get +2, which is alright. Just having a guy you can play for 6 is decent. Having Accelerate is also pretty nice. You kind of need him to have other units with him to get any value out of him. If he just said friendly units at his field have +2 when they're buffed, that would be really good because he could apply that to himself. So he's just okay. He really needs other stuff with him to be able to actually be pretty good, but he does provide quite a bit of might if you can actually get him attacking with some other stuff that have buffs. Next up is Kraken Hunter. She's got 5 might for 3 and 2 power, and she's got Accelerate as well. That's pretty expensive power wise, but she does swing in for 6 with Assault, and she can also reduce her power cost by spending a bunch of buffs. It's a decent finisher that can attack in for 6 at the end of the game. It's just really expensive if you have to play it on any earlier turns. Of course, paying a bunch of power doesn't matter on the last turn of the game, but if you're playing her sooner than that, then it could potentially matter a lot. You really don't want to recycle 3 any earlier than the last turn, but on the last turn, just getting a 6 point swing immediately for 4 energy is pretty good. Alright, the next 7 units are all extremely good. I think you can make an argument for any of them being in the top 5. First up, we've got Kiana. This is definitely an orange staple right now. A lot of decks are playing this. 4 might for 4 and a power with deflect is pretty decent, and when she conquers, you can either draw or channel. I've really only seen people use the draw effect, but the channel does also come up sometimes if you need to get to specific energy totals on your following turn. But yeah, just 4 energy, 4 might deflect is pretty nice, and drawing a card when she conquers is really good. This card is extremely good against decks that want to use a bunch of spells to kill units like Kaisa, and currently in the format it's seeing a bunch of play because of that. This is a very good deck. Next up we have Orange Set. might. He's got 4 might base for 5 and a power, but when you play him immediately, he gets a buff. So he technically starts off at 5, and you can spend a buff to give him +4, which is really good. 5 energy for something that swings in for 8 might is really nice, and whenever he conquers, he gets his buff back. So even if he spends his buff, he can get them back. Yeah, this card's really good. There's a lot of neat tricks and shenanigans you can do with him. If you want to know more about that, you can check out my video on Set. The deck is a pretty important part of that deck and how it works, and he's even seen play in some other orange decks as well. Yeah, overall, just a very solid card. Good amount of might for his cost, and he giving himself a buff is really good. All right, on to the top 5. I think all of these cards are extremely strong. First up, we've got Kinku Monk, 4 might for 4 and a power, and when you play me, buff up to 2 other friendly units. Yeah, this is really strong. It's one of the best cards in Set, the deck. Giving 2 buffs on play is really good. There's a lot of cards that synergize super well with buffs, and there's not really that many great ways to give buffs in the game right now. This is definitely one of the better ones. Yeah, ton of synergy, ton of combo potential. This card's very good. All right, next up we've got First Mate. This card is very good. 3 might for 3 energy, no power, and when you play me, you can ready another unit, which is very good. There's a ton of neat plays you can do with this guy. Just play him to accelerate something else. You can attack with it immediately. You can ready something with ganking to take both fields. You can just ready something to bring it back off of a field into your base to protect it from counterattacks. Yeah, this card is extremely strong. It's a great way to get points in the early game so you can close out games faster, or just have it be a finisher to be able to take your 8th point. Yeah, this card's really good, and we'll definitely see a lot of play in this format and other formats to come. Next up, we've got Dead Bloom Predator. This guy is crazy good. 8 might for 8 energy and 2 power with deflect, and you can play him to an occupied enemy battlefield. So he just comes down, starts combat immediately, kills something, and is difficult to deal with because he's an 8 might body with deflect. Against decks like Kaisa that want to kill stuff with spells, this card is insanely good. They need very specific cards to be able to beat this guy efficiently. Otherwise, they sometimes just end up throwing 2 or 3 or even 4 cards at this guy to just kill it, which is really good. Yeah, he's big, he gets a lot of value, he can essentially act immediately. Just overall a very solid card. At number 2, I've got Orange Misfortune. She's 5 might for 5 energy into power with accelerate and ganking. And also, the first time she moves each turn, you can ready something else that's exhausted. That could be pretty much anything. You can ready other units, you can ready runes, you can ready your legend if it's tapped. This card's very versatile. It's got a ton of combo potential. It's really good if you accelerate it and use it immediately. It's really good if you just play it in base and wait till next turn to combo with it. It's just got so much potential and so many neat tricks you can do with it. Definitely a very good card and will definitely be used in the future. And finally, for what I think is the best unit in orange, or one of the best units at least, it's Carnivorous Snapvine. 6 might for 5 and 2 power, and when you play it, you choose an enemy unit at a battlefield and they fight each other. That's pretty good. 6 might for 5 energy is really good already, and being able to kill something at a battlefield is also really good. In metas that are more aggro or mid-range focused, this card is crazy. It's really only bad against ramp stuff where it can't really kill anything because it's too big. The 2 power cost is a little expensive, but you do get a ton of value out of this card. It's a really big might swing on board. It could potentially kill something that's 5 might, which is 11 might total for just 5 energy, which is an extremely good rate. Yeah, most of the time it's just a straight +1 in card advantage, which is pretty good. All right, let's talk about the non-units, mostly spells, but I've got a gear in here as well. Starting off with some honorable mentions, cards I think are pretty good, but just either aren't seeing that much play right now, or really are just waiting for something else to make it better. Our first card on this list is Wallop. It's a spell for just 2 energy. It's got action, and as you play this, you can spend a buff to basically just make it free, cost 0 energy, and it readies a unit, which is pretty nice. Basically just a way to accelerate something, either for 2 energy or just a buff, which is pretty nice. It's good against decks where you need to go fast to win quickly, like when you're playing against a ramp deck and you really don't want them to get into the late game. You can also play it on something with ganking to conquer both fields, which is pretty nice. It's it's got some decent synergy, but there's definitely a lot of cards in the game that kind of do its job better than it does. But it's still decent though. Another honorable mention is Gentleman's Duel. It's a spell also with action that costs 6 and a power. You give a friendly unit +3 might, and then you choose an enemy unit and they fight each other. It's pretty expensive, but it can essentially kill anything you want it to, and it could also hit units in the enemy's base, which is always really nice. Yeah, there's other cards that basically do this, but cheaper, but it's still a pretty decent card, especially in mirror matches. Sometimes it can be a good card to have. Being able to essentially just kill anything anywhere for 6 is not bad. You do need setup for it though, and it is a little bit expensive, so it's not the best, but it's still pretty good. All right, first off in our top 5, at number 5, I've got Primal Strength. This is another spell with action that costs 4 and a power, which just gives a unit +7 might. It is a bit expensive, but that's quite a lot of might. It basically allows you to punch over anything in the game with anything, which is kind of nice, and also allows you to protect the battlefield basically from most attacks that your opponent could throw at you. Yeah, it's pretty strong, but it is kind of expensive at 4 and a power, so it can be overkill in some situations where you only need like +2 or a little more might, but it's better to overkill something than to just not be able to kill it. Yeah, just having 4 energy up while your opponent's trying to attack you sometimes means that your opponent just can't attack you, or they shouldn't. Yeah, it's a pretty good card and definitely can be pretty threatening. All right, these next 4 cards on this list are honestly a little ridiculous, and I could see some of them getting banned or hit in some capacity at some point in the game's lifespan. The first of which on here I have Unyielding Spirit. It's a spell with reaction that costs 1 and a power that just prevents all spell and ability damage for the rest of the turn. Against some decks, this is sometimes just an entire turn skip, which is insane for just 1 energy. I think it's pretty self-explanatory how this card is absolutely bonkers sometimes. Your opponent spends 6 or 7 on a big spell to try to kill a bunch of stuff, and you just stop it for 1 energy and basically blank their entire turn. I think this is probably the main reason that some insane cards like Singularity just aren't really being played that much right now, because of the fear of just being blown out by this card and having your turn skipped. Yeah, this card is absolutely insane for just 1 energy. I would not be surprised if it was hit on a ban list in some capacity at some point. Next up, I've got Challenge, which is less insane, but a lot more generic and more widely applicable. It's a spell with action that costs 2 and a power. You basically just choose a friendly unit and an enemy, and they fight each other. It's essentially just a removal spell for 2 and a power that can kill something anywhere as long as you have a bigger guy than they do. It's a really good card for just 2 energy. That's extremely cheap for this kind of effect, but you do need setup for it to be actually good. You have to have a unit, and it's got to be bigger than the thing you want to kill, but in most orange decks, that's not that hard, and this card is usually very good. The only thing this card struggles into is ramp decks, where your opponent's just going to have bigger things than you do, unless you're also playing a ramp deck. Otherwise, this card is just really good in most matchups. At number 2, I've got another spell. It's Sabotage, just 1 and a power to look at an opponent's hand and take a non-unit card from it and recycle it. This is an insane card for just 1 energy. It's really strong in most matchups, and sometimes this card can kind of just outright win you the game. Another card that I would not be surprised if it got hit in some capacity. It's insanely good. You just get knowledge of your opponent's entire hand, so you can play around whatever they've got, and you know what they can do. You also get to take potentially the best card in their hand if they're playing a deck that revolves around non-unit stuff, like big spells or big gear. Yeah, just a very good card. Even when you can't take something that's game-winning, you can still just take a smaller spell, and it still feels good because you're taking away something from the opponent, and you get to see their entire hand. It's really strong for insulating your plays before you commit to attacks and stuff. You just see what your opponent has, take away any counterplay that they could have, and then attack however you want, knowing what your opponent can do. Very versatile card, very strong card, just overall very good. All right, on to number 1. I think you guys can see this coming, but it is what I think is probably the best orange card in the game right now. Maybe you could argue Sabotage is up there at the best, but I think currently this card deserves the number 1 position. It's Dazzling Aurora. This card has spawned entire decks around itself. It is single-handedly carrying Ramp as an archetype on its back right now. It's one of the best cards in the game. Sometimes if you just play this card, you win the game with it and nothing else. I've seen many people say this card deserves to be hit, either just gone outright or hit in some capacity that limits its power. To explain why this card is so good, it's a gear that just sticks on the field, costs 9 and 2 power, and at the end of your turn, you reveal cards from the top of your deck until you find a unit, and you get to play it for free. And you do that every turn. So as soon as you slap this card down on the table, if it's not dealt with, it just continues to spit out gigantic units turn after turn. Usually you're going to build your deck around it, so you only have good hits off of this card, like big things like Dead Bloom, and a lot of the time, if you just play this card when you're at 9 energy and your opponent can't deal with it, you just win the game. I don't think it's as insane as some people think it is. It's definitely an extremely strong card and could definitely end up getting banned or having something else happen to it in the future, but I think right now it's not broken. It does feel a little bit too strong when you play it earlier than you're supposed to. Typically the fastest you can play this is turn 4 when you're going second, or turn 5 when you're going first, but when you get to play this card a turn faster than that, it does kind of get out of hand. I wouldn't be surprised if something happened to this card sooner rather than later, but I also wouldn't be surprised if nothing happens to this card in the next few months. There are definitely ways you can build your deck to be able to combat this card more effectively, and there are quite a few decks in the format that have an easy time dealing with this card and decks built around this card, so I really don't think it's too much of a problem right now, but we'll have to see. This card definitely could be very easily broken in the future if some new card comes out that synergizes way too well with it, but we'll have to see. Anything could happen. Yeah, so overall, I think orange is an excellent spot right now. It's probably the strongest color in the game. So many of the cards on this list are just so powerful. It's got a ton of amazing units, a ton of amazing spells, some of which might be too good, and it's got definitely the best gear in the game. Alright, let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching. Take care.